2018 workshop meeting. We will begin the meeting with the pledge to the flag. Up first on this evening's agenda is the superintendent's report with Mr. Michael Brooks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming out. Tonight is an important meeting for us as it closes out the board's time with development of the 2018-2019 school budget with our budget hearing. So Mr. Witherow will walk us through the budget hearing tonight. Just want to go through some of the particulars, make sure everybody's aware that May 15th is the budget vote. That is here in this room that we're in, the courtroom, the municipal building here at Milton Elementary School. It's from 6 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night on May 15th. Budget materials are also being mailed out this week to every home in the school district, and those are also available, as is all the development material that has been used by the Board of Education for development of this budget on our website and through our social media platforms. I encourage you to take a look at that information as you're making your decision regarding the May 15th budget vote and Board of Education elections. Also, the board is being asked to approve the memorandum of understanding for the Bayside Apartments tonight. If there are any questions that the board has, we are more than ready to answer those questions, but that is the culmination of the process that we've been in with the town of Marlborough and the developer for the Bayside apartment building complex, which, if approved and if built, is right next to the middle school. Our role in that process is purely to have the developer help us with a known issue, which is the traffic flow at the middle school. And for over a year now, we've been discussing with the town of Marlborough, the planning department, the supervisor's office, and the developer to figure out a way to better use the property space up there and the traffic light that already exists on 9W so that we can flow traffic better. So this agreement allows us to move forward with that process and give the developer the authorization to make some improvements to parking for us and also for our access to the road that will lead to Bayside so that we can improve traffic flow. That doesn't mean that the apartment complex is going to be built. If the apartment complex gets built or approved and built by the town, then the developer will be doing this work for the school district at no cost to the school district. So we certainly will be able to answer any questions, but as this board has been fully involved in the process, we're coming to the end of our role in creating this partnership and hoping to get approval for that tonight. And the last thing I had mentioned, the school resource officer contract that we're working on with the town of Marlborough. That is in the town's hand right now. They are looking at some of the finer details that Mr. Witherow, our legal department, the town's representatives and the town's legal department are working through, and that would really be a contract for the 18-19 school year for school resource officer services. So our contract with the town ends at the end of this school year, so this would allow us to move into the 18-19 school year. So I anticipate having that for the board to review at the next board meeting. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Moving on to Orange Ulster BOCES report with Ms. Reed.
Good evening. Last night I did not attend. I did go to the spring concert up at the high school to hear our students, which did a fantastic job, as they always do.
Okay then. Mr. Milazzo with the Ulster BOCES report.
The last meeting was the Ulster BOCES annual meeting. Mr. Brooks and I attended. It was really their opportunity to present the BOCES budget and more importantly to highlight the students and the programs. It was a dinner up at the BOCES Center in their culinary arts area where they do lunches and stuff. It was well attended by all the districts, but there was no other business attended to.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is the budget hearing with Mr. Patrick Witherow.
Okay, good evening. All of this information has been seen before, so we're going to kind of roll right through it, and if there's any questions, we can address them at the end. If the board has any questions during the presentation, please feel free to interrupt, and we'll address immediately. So again, our budget theme, stability and security. This year, although on paper, accounting-wise, we have a $152,000 increase in the budget from last year, the actual increase in expenditures is $1,152,024. As we discussed previously, we had budgeted the Smarter Schools Bond Act in the general fund last year. We're moving that into the capital fund for this year. So while it does look dollar to dollar, the increase looks relatively small. It is absorbing that $1 million that was previously budgeted that is not this year, going into next year.
Hey, Pat, before you go, I should have asked you this in the prior meetings, but $56.7 million for last year's budget, or this current year budget, do you have a projection of where we're running actuals against that budget yet?
We do, and I could give you an update at the next meeting. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I could give it to you.
Okay.
So we are looking at an actual 2.03% increase in proposed expenditures compared to last year. The tax levy, we're at the levy cap, 34.7 million, an increase of 830,000 or 2.45% from last year. And again, this is the first time we've seen a levy increase since the 14-15 school year. In the major cost drivers, we've seen this a number of times, and the potential for some school safety enhancements as we look for opportunities within the existing budget to fund those. An estimate of our tax rate, along with an estimate of what the bills would look like for basic, enhanced, and no-star properties at $100,000, $200,000, and $300,000 sale price homes. This is our legally required form to present in the budget hearing. This is the three-part budget, broken out between administrative, program, and capital, with a comparison to see what we look like for the previous year. And again, as we just mentioned previously, the board budget vote and board election is not next Tuesday, 2 Tuesdays, May 15th, right in this facility. We've got banners up at each of the school buildings indicating that the date of the vote and the location here at Milton Elementary School. And we do have 4 candidates who you'll hear from tonight running for the Board of Education, listed in the order as they will appear on the ballot. And another reminder, Tuesday, May 15th, budget vote here. Are there any questions? We've seen these a number of times. I've got copies of the presentation. I know it went through pretty fast for everybody in the audience. If anybody would like a copy, they can come up and see me. It's also on the district's website right now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
To conclude our reports, we invite the Board of Education candidates who are seeking election to the podium to address the public, and we will begin with Mr. Milazzo and go in the order of the ballot numbers, followed by Mr. Perugino, Mr. Marrow, and Ms. Reed.
And the different things that are out there and what your regulations are. We went through some very difficult times over the last 6 years. We've been able to, by planning and being fiscally prudent, control and get the district through those times. with all the things that we had to go through. I believe that my experience here and the time that I've spent going through these difficult periods affords me the ability to continue to serve the community. I have a large background in dealing with a very similar sized budget in my employment and about the same number of employees, so it's very similar. And I've dedicated more than 30 years of my life to public service, not only in my career, but also as a volunteer on the ambulance corps in town for a number of years and with the fire department. So I just hope that when you come out on the 15th that you provide me with your support. Thank you.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for inviting us to speak tonight. Appreciate the opportunity. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tony Perugino, and Marlboro has been my home for 20 years. My wife Tracy and I have lived here with our children, Jessica, John, and Jillian, who have all either attended, graduated, or are currently attending the Marlboro schools. I have an undergraduate degree in finance from Utica and an MBA in Finance and Economics from the Columbia University School of Business. Excuse me. My work experience includes roles as a finance executive at large Fortune 50 organizations such as UPS and Medco Health, and my current position as Chief Financial Officer for Vassar Brothers Medical Center and Vice President of Finance and Business Intelligence for HealthQuest. Excuse me. I will bring a valuable set of financial skills to this board, along with the ability to collaborate with my peers, as well as lead when necessary. I'm not an educator, but I do have a passion for preparing our youth for whatever career path they choose. I believe that investing in our children now leads to a vibrant Marlboro in the future. In order to provide every child with the education they deserve, the school board must have a clear vision, create structure to support that vision, advocate for our children at every opportunity, and be accountable to the community. I believe that a school board must be responsive, receptive, and encourage open dialogue between parents, staff, students, and the community at large. The board must take input from all groups and weigh all facts before making decisions. A board member is your trustee as you elect them. I will be accessible and willing to collaborate with all members of the community. Anyone that comes before this board deserves an opportunity to speak and not just be heard. As a school board member, I look forward to building public understanding, support, and participation. I believe we need continued improvement in student achievement for Marlboro to claim its place as a hub for academic excellence. I believe all students can succeed, and every child needs the best education we can provide. In order to achieve this, we must be vigilant with our limited resources. We must constantly look for opportunities to innovate and provide our teachers with the tools they need to create excellence in education while keeping in mind the financial restraints of our taxpayers who have been burdened enough over the last decade. It's been well documented that on a per-student basis, it costs more to educate a student in the Marlboro School District as it does to educate students in other comparable districts. If we are paying a premium, should we not expect premium results? Shouldn't our children graduate with a clear advantage over their peers? I would argue that they should and that currently they are not. As taxpayers, we should demand this, and as board members, we should be developing a focused glide path to get there. I believe that in order to progress forward, we need to challenge each other to be more collaborative, demand innovation in the way we think, push back on the status quo, and constantly ask why. I do not, I assure you, have all the answers. But with your input and feedback, I will continue to ask the questions. My chief goal as a prospective member of this board will be to ensure that we are directing our resources towards only those things that will enhance the student experience, provide our teachers the tools and technology to foster higher learning while creating a standard of excellence in academics. This type of rigor will help prepare our youth for the hyper-competitive and global economy that awaits them. In addition, I would like to bring your voice to this table. I want to communicate with you and hear all of your thoughts and concerns. I stand ready and willing to listen and represent you as a member of this board. Finally, I commend every member of the current and past boards for their service and dedication to this district. I think anyone who commits to this service does so with the best of intentions. But I submit to you that it is time for a change. I have no doubt that new energy, new leadership, a spirit of collaboration can ignite our community's educational potential to forge a better and more prepared future. And I respectfully ask for your support on May 15th. Thank you.
For the few people in the room not, lucky enough to not know me, my name is John Marrow. And the seed for me running for the board was planted a couple years ago, and my son, Danny, was on the board as a student representative. He used to come home every other week, and he would say to me, Dad, they had all these discussions going on, and I know you would have said this, or I know you would have said that, and you would have added so much to the discussion. And it got me thinking of it back then, and now it just felt like the right time to run. So I just want to introduce myself publicly to the board and just let you know a little bit about me and ask for your support if you'll vote for me on May 15th. Born and raised here. I'll be 50 years old this year. I own 2 homes in the town. So I understand the financial constraints of the taxes. First and foremost, everyone here pays taxes once, I pay it twice. So understanding that will be one of my main goals, to make sure that budgets are fiscally responsible. And I loved what I heard Tony say, and Frank say, that they have worked on the very large budgets and they'll be able to really help in that process. Oftentimes when there's conflict with boards and community, there's a lot of walls that are built. This one says this one says that, and I feel very strongly that I can add a lot to that conversation because I'm fortunate enough to where I live and work on all sides of those walls. Number one, I'm a taxpayer. I've already said that. Number two, I'm an educator. So when teachers have an issue, I've been teaching now for 10 years. I understand teachers. I understand their issues. Number three, in a month, I'm going to start my administration program in New York City. So down the road, I hope to be a principal or assistant principal one day, so I'll understand that side of it. I've been a business owner in Marlboro, too, for about 11 years prior to going to teaching, so I understand, being a business owner as well in this town. So when people are going back and forth about different things, I hear things and I understand what people are saying, and other people may not always understand what people are saying, because when people are involved in conflict, a lot of times what I hear is people just want to get out their point. They don't want to listen to other people's sides of the story. I hear what people say, I respond to what people say, and when you start doing that, you really open up a good ground for discussion, and you can solve a lot of issues, okay? I've never seen issues that can't be solved when people talk and listen to each other. Issues don't get solved when people don't listen to each other. So, Danny, a few years ago, things that have gone on in the past years, I've heard a lot of things, and I'm just like, this is my time. I really, really want to get involved and try to help this board move forward. With that being said, I think the board has done an amazing job in the past 5 to 6 years, but there are things that I feel that I can add to it. Another thing that comes up a lot when I read in the newspapers is that a lot of kids are concerned about being bullied in school. If you don't know this about me, I'm a co-author of the DASA program in New York City. There's 5 of us that wrote it, and we've trained over 8,000 new teachers, new substitutes, and new administrators in the latest strategies in how to help kids in this classroom that are actually being bullied. So it's something I'm kind of an expert in. It's something that's been a passion of mine. I actually started this passion with Miss Clinton probably 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, when I was just a substitute in her school. So there's a lot of different things I bring to the table. Very interested in getting involved in this. I'm asking you for your support on May 15th, and I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joanne Reed, and I am rerunning for my seat on the school board. I have been educated on the challenges that life has gifted me as being a mother of raising 2 boys with special needs. that are that are 20. I have served on the school board for 7 years. During the time, I have made it my personal mission to be a fierce advocate for all children. With the experience I have had in my life, it has given me the knowledge, the understanding, the compassion, and the empathy for special education. As a result, I became a parent member for over 12 years before I got on the school board. To help children and their families, it was volunteer. If you know me, I am a loud voice that constantly challenges the district to properly use the resources for all the children, regardless of their needs. What does it mean for me to be on the school board? Education, always first, preparing our students for college, trade, or the workplace. Supporting our students and staff in academic achievements, including the arts, music, sports, working together with the superintendent in the pursuit of excellence. This is also including working together to bring a satellite of Ulster Community College in the hopes that students can graduate with an associate's degree one day. Working with the community to be financially responsible and holding the school district accountable for the way we spend our tax dollars. I am also proud to represent Marlborough Central School District, an appointed volunteer of Orange Ulster BOCES Board, where I hold the position of secretary. I am very proud to wear my black and orange with pride. As the most trained member of the school board, I represent the district at the New York State School Board Convention, where the opportunities to learn the latest laws and issues that affect the district and our students. I believe the most productive boards consist not only of men, but also of women who bring a balance of an equal voice for all to the boardroom. As a woman and a taxpayer, we should have an equal say at the table. I also believe the best boards are a true illustration of the community and that serves with life experience with 2 children who have special needs. I serve a role that no other candidate does. Once again, I will ask for your trust, your vote, to elect me member of the school board. I will continue to make sound decisions, serve beneficial to the entire district, which continue a balance, and with academic needs for our students and financial limits of the community. Perhaps what is not always popular, but nevertheless best intended for children and the taxpayers. In closing, my voting record speaks for itself. I vote for the right way. Thank you for your continuing trust with your children and your hard-earned tax dollars. Please come out and vote for me, Joanne Reed, number 4 on the ballot on May 15th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we wish all of you much luck. Let me see, moving on actually to public comment on agenda items. We invite the public to comment on any of the agenda items. Moving on to the consent agenda. You good? Okay. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, approve the following contract agreements and reports as presented: personnel recommendations, Felonzer contract, Devereaux contract, Anderson Center contract, donations, unofficial board meeting minutes from April 19th, 2018. Can I get a motion to approve the contracts and agreements and reports as presented? James, second. Joanne? Any discussion? Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Moving on to number 5, recommended actions. Resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, authorize the resolution and the memorandum of understanding with maps for the Bayside Development Plan project as presented. Can I get a motion to authorize the resolution and the MOU? Frank, second. John? Any discussion?
Just a quick question. We've seen these versions of these a few times, but I'm pretty sure when I read through it, I didn't see any changes, but maybe you can confirm. Did anything change from the last versions of these?
There have been no changes.
Okay, thanks.
Does anyone have a need to look at the map with questions?
We will want to, after we do the approval, pick which options we're going to go with.
What did he say?
I thought that was part of the recommendation already. Pat, which were the options we were recommending? So we can note those on this?
I'm pulling it up right now.
So with proposal
Yep.
number 1,
You're correct.
the owner shall pay, what was it? Pat, you want to go through it? It's proposal 1 and proposal 2. Proposal 1, we were recommending that the owner, meaning Bayside Development, pay for and physically construct the improvements. So that's option number 1. And in proposal number 2, the owner would construct the 2 proposed middle school driveway connections. Again, proposal number 2 would be option number 1 as well. So the owner would do all the work on our property.
Any further discussion regarding that?
You need a motion to amend them now, Mike, or?
No, it's in there. It is in there.
It's there.
Yeah, the actual resolution has it in there, and then the
Okay.
contract will just fill it in, Frank.
Okay, gotcha.
No further discussion. Cast your vote. The motion has been carried 6-0. Moving on to old business. Is there any old business before the board?
Just to get a follow-up where we're at with the security survey. Did the company start?
Sure. Mike, you want to give a quick update on where we are? Mike's kind of project manager on it.
Yep.
Yes, we've been in touch with Altaris. They have proposed 3 dates, and right now the principals are selecting one of those options. So it's May 10th, May 11th, and May 16th. We did express to them the urgency in getting on site while school is in session and really getting this report back. So that's where we're at. Visitations will be starting next week.
The only other thing I had was, is the phone system still stable since the change? No more issues? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
There was some tweaking that had to happen after the install, but it's stable, right? It's stable, right?
Yeah, we're in good shape.
And the new system has been, that order has begun the process. So the staging has begun, the ordering, the the preparations for install has begun too.
Great, thank you.
Any new business before the board? Any other items? Anyone have any questions for Mr. Conley and myself? We did a walkthrough of the elementary school with Mr. Brooks this week.
Was there anything in particular you were looking at, like what part of the day or which areas you think the security audit might be coming back with proposals, or how did you approach the visit?
So basically, we met in the entrance of the school. We observed what takes place as various people and students are walking in and out of the entrance, and talked about some possibilities and areas of opportunity for additional security and perhaps areas of concern. From there, we talked to the building principal. Mrs. Walsh gave us quite a bit of information about what her concerns were during busy times. We observed lunch in both the 3-5 and the K2 areas to get a good idea of what happens in those areas and how they're monitored. From there, we took a walk throughout the school in many different areas and saw just times really, I think that as a parent, when you're involved in drop-off and pickup of your children, you see things from, the outside perimeters of the school. And I think that, if anyone has ever been in that opportunity to be there during that time, you see the challenges that the staff are against with an enormous amount of drop-off and pickup and buses and the interconnecting of buses and parents that are late for work and so on. So from that perspective, I think our true goal was to be able to go in and see the operation from more from a security standpoint of view. Because I think that if any of us have had children within the elementary school and we've been to the elementary school, either you're going in and you're picking someone up, or you're going in and you're being escorted to a certain area for a very specific thing, and you don't really per se have that of security on your mind. So this gave us really that opportunity to look at it from that perspective, to look at various points of major traffic inside the school. And from there, we went out and we walked the perimeter of the school during recess. Saw just the different dynamics of the children who are eating lunch versus being outside, and the various challenges that can pose. I think that we had a very, very thorough visit, if Mr. Conley would like to add anything, but I think it really gave us a true perspective of a busy time inside of the school. And of course, initially when we got there, we saw some downtime as well, and we talked to Mrs. Walsh about what an SRO would be doing during those times, and she really gave us some very good information about various points of interest without giving away too much security information. But Mr. Conley, if there's anything you would like to.
I think the one thing that really struck me was when we went through the cafeteria and seeing the children at their tables and a monitor with each table. It seemed kind of excessive to have that number of people, and I questioned Mike about it. And then when you see the children go outside to play and the vastness of the property, and you have a pocket of 3 kids out that way, 4 kids there, you can see why you need that many eyes on those children in all those areas. And I just feel, I have a daughter in the elementary school, and I just, for me, for all children, I just think it's a very wise choice to have an SRO full-time at MES. So, but it was very interesting dynamic with the children, especially outside.
As a board this week, we had the opportunity to have a training on the community engagement impact on student success. And a very interesting point that I thought was brought up, you know, we live in an age where everyone seems to be, rightfully so, very hypervigilant about security, and we all want to make sure that our children are safe no matter what. The interesting thing that was brought up was we do have to consider the balance between a welcoming atmosphere and that of a more secure atmosphere. So to be able to create that balance between what it looks like to be an organization and a district and an educational system for children, especially young children. How do you weigh that out? Being a welcoming entity to the taxpayers and to the parents and to the community versus that of making sure that the children are secure. So there were some very interesting things I thought brought out in that training, and I think that was very timely, and it just has really given us a much wider perspective of really what we're up against in making sure that our community schools are that, but also to making sure that they are safe. So I think that that's where this board is, and we will see in the future where we go. Did you want to add anything to that?
I just offer to any board member, certainly any member of the public, if you're interested in doing a tour of any school, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to schedule some time and can spend some time wandering around some hallways and watch some kids learning, interacting, playing sometimes, and just contact Teresa, contact my office, and we'll set up some time. It's best when it's an open school. So, you know, we can certainly do it in the evening or the afternoon because I know time and work schedules, but really when you want to see the lifeblood of the school, if you can, you know, squeeze out the time during the day, I'd love to take you around. So it's an open invitation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone have any other questions? In regards to other items, I know that the board received this information regarding the election, and I just wanted to reiterate a couple of points. So on the night of the election, we're all on the same page. One of the 3 seats to be voted upon is to fill the unexpired term to the previous resignation of Mr. Bill Bell, as we are aware. And I just wanted to make sure that the board fully understands that the vacancy will be filled as follows. The candidate who receives the 3rd highest number of votes cast will be declared to be elected to this office as soon as the results of the election are determined, since it is the shortest term. So what that means is that will be May 15th, once the election results are accepted. If the candidate who is elected to fill the office is not a current board member, he or she can take and file the oath of office to fill the unexpired term as soon as the results of the election are determined. If the candidate, however, is elected to fill the seat, if they are a current board member, that individual would have to first resign the current seat on the board and then take and file the oath of office to fill the unexpired term within 30 days of the election, because no individual can occupy 2 seats on the board at the same time. And at that point, their former seat would then be vacant from the date of resignation through June 30th. And in this instance, the board would remain a 6-member board until the reorganizational meeting. Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay. At this time, we would like to recognize our district residents and others.
I have a question. Is it true that Quality Bus sold?
Quality Bus is still Quality Bus, but there's a new parent group that owns Quality Bus right now, yes.
It's a large conglomerate company?
Good question, I'm not certain. I did meet the representative of the owner, what was that, last week, Pat? We met them, but
Will there be data shared with the public indicating the comparison between the traffic violations with Quality versus this large conglomerates? And are we bound to the contract, or can we renegotiate the contract now?
So nothing is, this is like a financing deal. It's an equity purchase. So the people at Quality Bus that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, the people that drive the bus, the people that manage the terminal, Mike Martucci, who was one of the owners, still retains an ownership share, still involved in the day-to-day management of the company. So there's no, you shouldn't see any changes in the day-to-day operation. There is no ability right now to negotiate the contract because the contract was bid for a specific term, and that, much like Dan Scammer being sold recently, it's still Dan Scammer. They're just different people that.
They don't drive our kids to school.
This
I
other
mean, I'm
company-
concerned about the fact that that's different than what this district negotiated on. When they negotiated with a certain company. They were well aware of
it's
the
the same.
terms of the agreement. They were well aware of the safety. And I don't know if you'll get that with a larger company. I understand what you're saying. The same people are working there, but it's still managed by a larger company.
It's actually, on the day-to-day basis, will be managed by Mike Martucci, and he would just report back to the equity shareholder, the majority equity shareholder.
what we
So-
can do is we can get a brief from the attorney regarding the contract questions that you have. We'd already speak with them, and there is no change in the contract. We still have a contract with Quality Bus. So that, all those provisions still hold true.
And that's
So-
how many years is that contract?
I think we're going into now our third year. It was a
Correct.
five-year
We're in-
contract.
Five-year
We're
contract.
finishing the third year.
Can the district put an amendment on the contract saying that we have the ability to opt out early if the transportation is not up to par?
that would be a
Or if
mat-
the costs go up?
Right. I mean, the contract is the contract, but we can get some greater information for the board if there are questions regarding it, but
And the costs are structured based on the bid. No changes will occur to the cost structure.
Right, but ownership changed. So I understand what you're saying, but they still technically changed. So
It's the
that's...
same, our contract is with Quality Bus, and they're still Quality Bus.
Okay. All right. I'll step away if there's anybody else, but I have another question.
Pat, just as a follow-up to that, now, whoever bought them, do they do busing, or is it just a finance company?
They do busing, but they in talking with the representative, the new owner, their approach isn't, like a first student comes in and everything changes the first student, they bring their people in. What they do is they operate more in the background. All the companies that they acquire maintain their local name because they want the local branding that's associated with that. They retain the local workforce. If anything, what we're expecting to see are some additional safety enhancements that are needed for them to enter into an insurance consortium that's run through this larger company, which would then give them potential savings. But there are more stringent requirements for Quality to get into that insurance consortium, so we should only see a benefit from that.
Yeah, the question I would have, though, for the attorney then would be, when one of the big things we looked at back then were their aging of buses, of the company's buses,
Right.
and their safety stuff. So now there's a much larger company. Is it all of their stuff?
I don't know how they have the company
You know what we'll
structured.
do? Why don't we do this, so we
Yeah.
don't speak hypothetically? We'll get a exec session update from the attorney for you folks, and we'll get a public presentation with the new owner, so that he can come and speak regarding perspective. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah.
From a legal and also from a parent's comfort level, so.
Thank you.
Why don't we work on both of those things? He said he'd be more than happy to come down. He's from the Syracuse area, and speak at any time, so we'll work on those two sides of it.
Great.
Okay?
I just have a question regarding the board seats, because the last month's election, it was stated that if the third lowest number of votes, that person would resign and take over the unoccupied term, but then the board would then possibly vote. My question is, how does it benefit the community to have 6 board members? If you're still going to have a vacant seat, why wouldn't you allow somebody else who had the highest number of votes to fill out?
There will only be a vacant seat until the reorganizational meeting, because
Right, no, I understand
what the
that.
issue is, and it's only if it affects a sitting board member. So if a sitting board member receives the third
Right.
highest
No, I
vote,
understand that, I understand that.
then they have to resign that
Yeah.
evening and take on the vacant seat, which in essence leaves their seat vacant until the new person is sworn in at the reorg meeting.
It was
which is-
stated the last month's board meeting that the board could then vote to see if somebody with the higher election, number of votes would then be voted in and voted on and given the opportunity to fulfill that other vacant seat and then continue on with the 3-year term. Wasn't that the advice
I
given
mean,
by the
that's-
attorney?
the board has the right
You could do that.
to do that. You
Okay.
just have to have a majority opinion. The board can appoint anybody to a vacant seat.
Correct.
At any time.
So my question is, again, I would hope that you would consider putting someone on so you have 7 votes, not 6. Thank you.
Just a community announcement, Steve Jennison. Just want to make sure everybody got their invites for the parade. I want to make sure the community has on their calendar, May 27th. The Legion is sponsoring the Memorial Day Parade in Milton this year. And kickoff is at 1, and we're hoping to get as many floats and as many marchers as possible. I know Mr. Brooks has been asked to speak, so please come out and support, and remember our fallen veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve, when is it?
May 27th.
At what time?
1 o'clock. Any other district residents or others that would like to address the board? We do have an executive session scheduled for the purpose of the employment history of a particular person, and we do not expect action. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Frank, second. Joanne? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?